You do it all without breaking a sweat. Like being a boss exec to Tuesday tennis to homework. Why do the kids have so much homework? Family dinners, lunches, brunches, trips to the vet, and a weekend getaway that's anything but a getaway. And you do it all in style. Even when you have back-to-back conference calls on top of the kids' orchestra recitals, not to mention your side hustle. That's why we created the fully reimagined Infiniti QX60. A luxury SUV as functional as it is stylish, and as versatile as it is serene. With premium features like a panoramic moonroof, ample cargo space, and available massaging front seats to bring the ease of luxury to your everyday. Introducing the all-new Infiniti QX60, designed to help you take on life and all the chaos it may come with, in style. Learn more at InfinityUSA.com. Now with extremely limited availability, contact your local retailer for inventory information.
Hola. Welcome to episode 75 of Word to Your Mama. Word to Your Mama is a podcast about the life of a Latinx mama, that's me, and the lives of my amazing multicultural tribe, a celebration of shared experiences navigating this dynamic world. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Nah, B is our motto. Segments by the Supernatural Bear, he's 9 going on 49. Go down right after the main section. But other than that, this podcast will be explicit. Please believe it. Today we have a random hero, Erik Huerta, Quasi-Undocumented, neighborhood Metiche. We get into the life cycles of activism, what quasi-undocumented means for him, this amazing term, and you find out what it is. Maybe some of you, especially if you're in the activism space currently, you know what this is. We all know them, but I didn't know this name, mac-tivist. We get into that. And also, I couldn't tell this, I have people on that have impacted my life and my journey here over the years in LA, and I couldn't tell that story without having as many people as possible from LA Eastside Blog, because that's where I learned about a lot of areas in the neighborhood, a lot of different stories, and met amazing people such as, El Random Hero here. So we definitely get into that, how, our trajectory was, excuse me, at Late Eastside Blog. And then, as we evolved, we also made it to LA Taco back in the days when it was mostly, telling the folks what was going on around in the neighborhood. We get into, I can't wait to taste his LAUSD coffee cake. He also made a vegan version. We talk about his podcast and also his bike rides. He does bike rides. He does like a taco bike ride, and he's talking about doing a donut one. That sounds amazing. So yeah, as always, we have the main section, then the Supernatural Bear, then the outro, and that's it. So yeah, let's get into it. But before we get into it, we have a special shout out to Brian Liu for his donation, his support of Word to Your Mama. Muchísimas gracias, Brian Liu. I don't know how you got here, how you found us, but thank you. Thank you for loving it. Thank you for supporting it. And thank you for your donation. That shows me you believe, and we appreciate it. So shout outs to Brian Liu. All right, let's really get into it.
Give me the cues so I can. Oh. All right, now I hit record.
Okay. So let me. We were recording, but not on both ends. Let me just say, ¿Cómo estás? How have you been? We interact online, but I haven't seen you and had a conversation like this. So how have you been, man?
Like everybody else, just hanging on there, right? Blessed to be healthy, blessed to have like a job that lets me work from home. Being at home is comfortable. We don't have too much of a bad situation with neighbors, but it's the hood. It is what it is. And yeah, just really fortunate to be in a space that I'm in with my partner, Marisol, right? That
shout out Marisol.
We're not struggling like we would have been if things were different, and I know like a lot of the other folks are.
Yeah, which, it's a good point that you bring up, because I was, let me see if he still keeps up with his blog, you know? And then one of the things you wrote something, I think the last entry was from like 2020, and you were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about how the pandemic, the lockdown could have impacted you differently if you were at another space, if
yep.
you were like a little bit earlier on, right? Where you have to be out on the streets, because in wondering if you were going to have to, how are you going to pay rent? And you're going to
Mhm.
have to be forced to be out in the streets working and all that stuff. Like a lot of our people, the black, especially the black and brown communities,
Yep.
they had no choice. Lockdown what?
You got no choice. You got to go out there, pay the rent, pay the bills, right? This is
Yeah.
that's the situation a lot of folks found themselves in, for better or for worse. And yeah, I was a service worker once. I was out there doing a lot of these like front facing customer relation jobs, jobs that require you to physically be somewhere to do the labor, and then you bounce. So it would have, like, yeah, it was like maybe 5-7 years ago that I would have still been in that same boat, and it would have been a completely different picture.
Yeah, that's crazy. To think about like how far just a couple of years like that could impact you in such a different way. And so, if you do the research and you look up um, a random hero, you have it yourself listed as quasi-undocumented.
Hmm.
Say more. Say more.
So I wrote quasi because I know I got that word from something I was reading. I was like, oh, that's a good word. I'm going to utilize it. But basically, I was trying to find a way to be descriptive, right? Of this ambiguous, this middle space
Mm,
of both a literal and existential identities. Because I came here when I was 7. My family, we came over from Mexico. The first place we ever lived in the United States was Boyle Heights. And happy to say I'm still in the neighborhood. And
nice.
then yeah, I had a pretty universal experience of being, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico, in LA, right? Working, going to school, trying to figure all of that out. And now, come 2012, the president, after being put, President Obama, was pushed against the wall to do something on immigration. Because ever since he got elected, they were always saying, yeah, like, me, I got you. We're going to pass immigration reform. That's why I asked you to vote for me. We're going to get it done. And it never got done. And he was already on his way out the door. So folks pushed him against the wall and be like, look, man, you promised this and you got to come through for the community. You got to do something. So they pushed him all the way so that he had that executive order, which is called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And it's just a really government way of saying, this is going to be like a temporary situation that gives people who are undocumented and meet the very specific qualifications they ask for, a permit, a work permit, and the priority to not be deported by ICE, right? We could still get
Mm,
deported if they catch me riding dirty or fucking up, but if I'm just going about my business and I get caught up in the system, then I'm not a priority. So that's why I was trying to come up with this way to describe that
yeah.
ambiguous status, right? I'm here. The government knows I'm here because I gave them my address. I pay my
Yeah.
taxes. They gave me a social to work, but I'm also not a full citizen or not even a full legal resident yet, right? So
Mm,
in that quasi undocumentedness, I was like, that's a good word. And then and
yeah.
it also has the same effect that that kind of sparked the question, is like people read that and be like, what do you mean by that? Can you explain it?
Yeah, and then they get to hear your story and stuff like that. And then so
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the post before the last one. It was in 2019. And I want to read it and see if if this still resonates with this. Your life and thoughts while living in documented America. I know and understand that drinking the haterade is hella toxic for one's health, and I constant question whether I have any say in how the current immigrant rights movement of the people that I came up with back in the day, almost none of them are active in the immigrant rights movement for a bunch of different reasons that equate to life moving forward. Those that are still a part of it fall into two extremes. They either become like too radical for the mainstream or have chugged the entire jug of Kool-Aid that makes you cringe. Unfortunately for the movement, those Kool-Aid chugging levas have placed themselves in positions to make decisions and tend to be in front of the camera at every possible turn.
Dang, I said that.
You didn't, and I'll have a link to all this stuff. But and before that, like I think this was the last paragraph. But before that, you were saying like, we were talking about earlier before the mics were on about those kids, and you were like, oh, the kids, they don't know the struggle of all the shit. You're talking like the old man, like they didn't walk the miles, they didn't do the shit.
Angry cloud shaking here. It's a very interesting space to reflect on, right? For like the way you just described my experience coming up, right, and learning about different social justice movements, and actually getting to meet and talk to and listen to elders who were in those spaces back then and are fortunate to still be around and supporting and just spreading the word in general. I learned that folks become bitter really fast for a lot of different reasons, right? I can't say why, but I can assume because of my own experiences, it's just life happening, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, there's two sets of folks that are on two solar opposites, right? And I think it's much more visible now in today's political climate to see how far left or how far center left or even right people are in their politics, right? Because I think social media for sure provides that ability to be more expressive and put it all out there. But I think more people are feeling themselves and are more inclined to wear it on their sleeves, right? When we're out and about, and even kind of like speaking to it when we go to specific events or places even we choose not to go and are proud to say we don't go there, we don't support that, right? So for me, it was just trying to reflect of like, what does that mean? Because I don't think I was in either space. I'm not like completely to the left where like I'm saying like, burn this shit down and anarchy in the UK. But I'm also not trying to like run for city council or like have a title to my name. I'm like, I think I explained that on social media once. I'm like, I'm just a complicated dude, like with a complicated life, trying to live an uncomplicated life, right? Just do me, just like take care of me, my folks, my family, and go to my job while I listen to my rap music. I feel like a meme sometimes like that, but after all these years of struggling, I was like, man, I just want some stability and some simplicity, so I can figure out what to do from there.
Yeah, for sure, and it's also like, especially talking to younger generations, like my niece and my godson, and like my niece is all in it. She's like at UCLA. She's like, part of the Latino organizations and the indigenous organizations. And I was like, I remember that feeling, And then when you graduate, you're like, hell yeah, fuck that shit. But then you get into those spaces. Like I remember going into the Mumia 911 and all those activist spaces. Oh, this is amazing. But then you see behind the curtain, you're like, this is fucking the same bullshit as any other industry, as any other fucking office building. And then you're right. Like, I was like, where do I fit? Because over here, it's fucking communist, full blown, like communism over here. And over here, it's just like, oh, the facade says one thing, but they're really just fuck boys. Like, what? It's always like, oh, I become disillusioned. Like, you're just like, oh, okay. It's all fucked up.
It is. And the added layer of, you're in a space where like you're talking about really like heavy, powerful stuff that's fucked up sometimes and can trigger you, right? You still got to level and navigate that space of human interaction that we're all in, right? That we're all coming into the same space because maybe we're sharing a general belief or we're coming together for a reason. And then after that, maybe we're completely different people, right? And that's to say too,
and that's okay.
It's fine to come how you are. I think it's what you do with that's what says more, right? Because like you said, there's fuckboys, but sometimes they're called mac-tivist, right?
That's the new term. That's the term. The latest
that was the term as I was introduced to it, of like the dudes, the cis hetero dudes that go to these movement spaces. They're probably down, right? Because they know about it and they have to be able to speak the lingo and the causes, but they're also more preoccupied with trying to hook up than like fight the power. Yeah,
I love that shit. I've never heard that. That's amazing, but that makes sense. That worked back then. I'm sure it worked back in the 50s and 40s. Like there's always a mac-tivist.
Yeah. There's
I love that
always.
shit.
I mean, it becomes the community where they're in that they become labeled that way, whether they know it or not, right? Because the stories
To
get
their face or
around.
behind their back.
Yeah, everybody talks, and sometimes everybody talks in the sense of like, be careful with that person.
Yeah.
Right. Watch
Yeah.
out for them because this is what they do, or the sister told us this is what happened, or there's a history of this happening. Right. So it's that circle of like all of us in a space trying to figure it out and sometimes being assholes to each other.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also like looking back at those times, and you looking back at those times when you were young and you were for you, I think it was also probably another level of being different because you were an activist for something that directly benefited impacted your life, right?
Yeah.
But it's also, as time goes on, everyone in the movement grows and evolves, right?
Yep.
So you're like the gung hos and then you learn, or you're like, fuck this, I can't do it. Like it's not made for everybody. Like you're like in it for a second or however long, however life takes you. And I think it's super interesting to think like, well, everyone's in their own little map, the road map of like, gung ho, disillusion, fuck this, whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a weird transition, and it's these last couple of years has been weird to see it like in the front row kind of way. So right. So for me, with my group of friends in my age group and in my communities, it started as soon as I turned 30. Like 30 was like the countdown that started for some reason. That all of my friends started like getting married. They started like putting down payments on houses. They started having kids, sometimes all three.
Right?
I was like, damn, y'all are like out here investing.
Adulting.
Yeah, nesting, doing all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm over here just getting drunk, riding my bike, going to my little job, going to the comic book store.
Listen to hip hop.
Yeah. Doing a lot of what I couldn't do before because that stability from working at a nonprofit wasn't there. I suddenly had time and a little bit more money to be able to go do the things I hadn't had the opportunity to do, and I took full advantage of that.
Yeah, as you should. Fuck it, you deserve it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we met each other, like how we know each other. And when I started, when this is supposed to be a blog, and then it turned into this, right, during the pandemic. And then when I started, and I was doing the list, I was like, who and what things really impacted my journey in LA? And God gave it up for LA Eastside.
Yep.
OGs, shout out. Hopefully the identities that we are talking about will come on here, but it's like full respect. So I believe that's how we met, no?
Yeah. So we formally met at the LA Eastside Blog back when blogs were the thing, as a collective of folks that were all doing their own thing, right? You as an artist putting some things out there on the side as well. Myself at the time starting to get more involved in being the neighborhood Metiche for Boyle Heights, and putting just what I saw was happening out in the social media world and on blogs. But before that, I realized I had met you before at Crew West. Back when, like, this is a couple of years ago. Like, obviously we didn't know each other yet, but I was looking through some old photos and I saw you doing a mural it was a Crew West event where they were doing something related to the Will Smith movie.
Legend.
Yeah.
I am Legend movie. Oh,
yeah.
You were there.
I was like, since back then.
Shut up. And did you stay the whole night, or were you there during the day, or
I think I went throughout the day, because there was like a whole festival vibe popping off. There was like, it was a cool event. There's a lot going on. And I think I was there with a girlfriend at the time. So I was just like checking it out and then bouncing to the next thing.
Yeah. So that I have pictures of that. I'll post some of that. That's funny because he asked me, he's like, you want to do a live battle? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, everyone's graph artist. Like, I don't do that shit. He's like, it's cool. He's like, we'll give you a 4x6 canvas and we'll have DJs and shit. And, it's for this movie and da-da-da. I was like, okay. I was like, I guess. And I was like nervous, and I was like, shit, people are going to be all up in my space. And so I just put my headphones on and just like did my shit,
Listening
right?
to that ghost face.
Go exactly. You know it to be true. Was listening to that ghost face. And then it was like first, third, second, and first prize. And they did at night, right? And I was like, I ain't getting shit. If I get anything, it'll maybe be third just because I'm one of like 2 girls that were there, maybe, you know, like a pity thing. And you're like, you're getting money. And I remember like, I think like Telemundo and like stations like that were there. And then they called me. I won second fucking place.
Hey.
And I was like, you see me? And I'm going, what the fuck? Like, I'm like all in the camera. And then it was hilarious. And then they wanted to interview me. And I was like, I'm not as fluent in Spanish, but I will try. Ooh, I'm so happy. I don't think there's any footage of that. But I'm pretty sure I could bet you money that every other word was, ¿cómo se dice?
Yep, you and me both.
Because I was going to say, like, I'm using this money to pay my business taxes or something like that. And so I was like, I don't know how to say that.
Estoy pagando los impuestos de mi negocio.
Yeah, I didn't know that shit. So I was like,
Yeah. I feel that.
So that's amazing. And then LA Eastside. And then remember they would have those amazing like vegan tamaladas.
Yeah. That shout out to El Chavo and Chimatli, the folks behind the LA Eastside space who, you know, kind of like Voltron called us all together to assemble.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, you know, getting to know everybody personally on a one-on-one level at these hangouts, they shared their food with us, which is like some of the best vegan food that at the time I ever had, right? Because I was completely new to that.
Yeah. The tamales were amazing. Yeah, it was super good. Shout out to them for bringing a lot of us together. Like I still, you know, you and I still, you know, maintain contact on the socials.
Yeah.
And Jeanette, I'm still with her, you know, still in contact with her. Cindy, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a good network of quality people. So yeah, good shit, man.
I really look back on that kind of what we were doing back then. And obviously, you know, like when we look back on things and we reflect on them, we're like, I wish I could have done that better. But I'm like, I was just happy to be part of it, honestly, because I think I was probably one of the youngest people on there. So I was like just learning and listening from all of y'all and seeing all the dope things everybody was doing and the amazing discussions that were happening in the comment section about how like somebody would share something and then folks would come in and maybe share the opposite view or share a similar view and drop in their experience, right, in their details. And yeah, I mean, we were written about in the LA Times. We were out there talking shit for all the things. And like it, I mean, and I know for sure with some of my stuff that like papers like the LA Times would send reporters to see what we're doing, like, right, to look at our website and then be like, oh, that's a good idea, we should write about that. So I know for sure I've influenced a few things here and there.
Yeah, that was good. It was before its time. And then I remember the battle towards the end with that other place we will not mention. And, you know, it's just like, what's really East Side? And I learned a lot because I'm not originally from LA and I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I was living in what people assumed was East Side, you know, like Silver Lake. And so that I learned so much from all of you guys, you know, and also it was a good time. I was at a good age where it was a good time to reflect on what I was posting because I was just posting like my thoughts and just like I think it helped me to think about like what does it mean to be, you know, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latina, however you want to phrase it. But it was like, am I enough? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not fluent, but I got these experiences. I look like this, like, you know what I'm saying? And I think having the discussions, like you said, the comments and with everybody, I mean, you know, it wasn't like how violent Twitter can get. Like, you know, it didn't get there, you know, so it was nice discourse. It was pretty friendly for the most part.
Yeah, given the times we were in, not as many people were online in these spaces as they are now.
Yeah.
But I feel you on that, right? Because I think now, if you were to ask me about that kind of stuff, it's like however you identify, however you're comfortable, that's cool. That, like, you know, like Nirvana says, come as you are.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody has to figure that out for themselves. But at least on my end, I've learned to be a lot more welcoming of others and And even though, you know, I'm Mexican, and that sometimes is like the dominant narrative out there for Latinidad and being an immigrant, I try to, you know, as I've learned to understand that I am a male, even though I am a Mexican, that I still have some other privileges as others, and I should shut up and know when to shut up and let others, you know, take the space.
Yep. That's definitely what at minimum the past 5 years I'm learning. Like you said, oh, you want to be labeled that? Okay, I'll respect that because it's not me.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck does that have to do with me? Like, how does that impact my life if you
No
want to
way.
be called such and such and such? But I will say, if someone says they're Hispanic, that's a red flag for me, and I like to
I was like,
keep my
are you
space.
from Florida? From Texas?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But anything else is like, so I just got asked this recently for something that it's going to come out next month, I think, and it's just like, how do you identify? You know, what's your culture? How do you identify culturally and ethnically and stuff? And I was just like, well, you know, when I put what I do, I try to put, you know, Latinx, Latinette to be inclusive so that you could, you know, that you're welcome in the space. But when it's one-on-one, I'm like, I'm Latina, and that's cool. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I wasn't born in Mexico, but I don't say Mexican American. I just say I'm Mexican. I don't know. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
you
just
own it. Yeah.
It's just different places and different spaces how you like, you know, but I want to be inclusive. I don't want to be like that old broad that's like, nah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, the art of code switching goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about something super important. The LAUSD coffee cake.
Hey, the perfected recipe of my adulthood. You know, that's why I started doing it.
Tell the people what is it?
So I started doing this LAUSD coffee cake because before the pandemic hit, I found the recipe online. Somebody shared it. It's like an actual like microwave like Xerox copy of the original recipe from the 50s. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna keep this in my pocket. You know, when I get some downtime, I'll make it. Right. And then we got all the downtime we could ever ask for with the pandemic. So I was like, for like that same week that the whole city, you know, like pretty much the whole country went into lockdown. I was like, cool, let me bust out that recipe and make some coffee cake. and when like after that first time I made it, I was like, oh man, this is good. Like from now on, whenever I'm invited to a party, to, you know, potluck, a housewarming, lo que sea, I'm going to be that dude that comes through with the LAUSD coffee cake.
Your signature dish.
Yeah, that's my signature dish. Right? And that's actually what's happened, you know, now 2 years later, and things are a little bit better. It's the calm before the storm, because apparently at the moment we're recording this, another surge is coming from Europe.
That's the word on the street. Yep.
But yeah, there's been a few gatherings already. I've brought it over, and it's a really addicted feeling to see people eat it, and then they light up their eyes and they do those expressions with their faces of like, this is so good. It tastes just like the way like I used to have it when I was school. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It is the recipe for coffee cake. The LAUSD used to give us back in, I don't know how long ago, but as far back as the 50s, for breakfast and for lunch and for later on what was called nutrition. And yeah, it's just a memory seared into the back of our brains. It lives rent free, right? That memory of this coffee cake. And honestly, the first time I made it and I was going through the ingredients to make sure I had everything, I realized, okay, now I know why my brain has this thing living rent free there, because it's at least like 3 cups of sugar, like brown sugar and granulated white sugar. So I was like, wait, wasn't I watching like some Discovery Channel thing that says that cocaine and sugar activate like the same neurons in our brain, so that's why we become addicted to it? I was like, all right, I guess that's why like it left such an impression. But it's you know, it's something I make every once in a while. Folks have asked me like, you should start slanging coffee cakes. I was like, like that's a lot. That's a commitment. Like I just tried making 2 batches the other day, one regular and one vegan, and even that was more than enough for me to handle.
2 is the most. Don't ask for more.
Yeah, well, I don't have enough pants for that.
if we end up having, depending on these numbers, maybe the next round post, I don't know who the fuck says, what's going to happen. But if we do have an LA Eastside reunion, you know where your job is.
Best believe I'm bringing that, the vegan and the regular one.
Yes, yes.
¿Alguna vez has estado listo para sentarte y disfrutar de la televisión y luego te das cuenta que no sabes lo que quieres ver o incluso dónde empezar a buscar opciones? Cox Contour TV te facilita esa decisión con el entretenimiento que amas, todo en el mismo lugar. Mira televisión en vivo, programas en demanda, grabaciones de DVR y música. Todo con el sonido de tu voz con el control remoto de Voz Contour. No solo encuentra los programas que estás buscando, sino que también brinda recomendaciones de romance, aventura o simplemente películas y disfruta. Si eres fanático de los deportes, captura la acción de golf y baloncesto que has estado esperando y obtendrás los puntajes, estadísticas y resúmenes en tiempo real en la aplicación Contour Sports. Y si te gusta la transmisión, solo dilo para que lo veas en tus aplicaciones de suscripción favoritas como Hulu, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus y más con Contour Stream Player. Obtén más información en cox.com/contour.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about your podcast, Orale Boyle Heights. Let's talk about it. What do you do? What it is about? All that good shit.
Yeah. So similar to you, I think I had this path of, being at LA East Side, writing, being a community spaces. But I also, you were doing your thing in the arts. I was doing my thing in journalism. So for me, I think it was a much more direct path to end up where I am now, right? Because that's my bread and butter. That was my job. That was also, it was and is my job. And it was my passion. Not so much anymore because now I know how to differentiate and like separate that because my work isn't exactly journalistic. But I still have those tendencies. Anyways, I continued on that path, writing and blogging on a personal level, on a community level, and then social media came around. So it made it easier to do that on Facebook, to do that on Instagram with pictures, to do that on Twitter with pictures and words. And yeah, eventually the homie Nico from Espacio 1839, they had the radio space there at the store. And then, excuse me. The fucking kombucha.
It's working.
They had this space at their store for, internet radio. And they're like, yo, we're trying to like open this space up to other community members. Would you want to come in and have a show? So for a while I was like, cool, man. Like, thank you for thinking of me. But I got enough on my plate with like at the time I was having one regular part-time job and multiple contractor jobs. So I had my hands full and wasn't really thinking about that. But he kept asking me, like he would ask me every once in a while when I'm hanging out at the store for an event or just, buying something, that space is still there. Like, let me know if you want to come through. So eventually I was like, fuck it, let me come through. Let me like start a show. So I just did like anything else, right? I started writing down ideas for the title, like what am I gonna talk about, what kind of show format it's gonna be, getting into specifics, like am I gonna need to buy recording equipment, right? How much time do I have at Espacio? How can I book guests? All that producer level stuff that nobody really thinks about when they think about starting something. So
right.
I started doing all of that, but thankfully Espacio had all that equipment, so half the battle was already done for me. I just had to show up, learn how to use what's there and take advantage of it. So I did. And that's where Orale Boyle Heights came from. It's just the original idea was just to kind of reflect what I was doing already, which is write about the neighborhood, talk about what's going on, have people on the show and interview them to talk about what they're doing in the neighborhood with like current projects, past projects, or just general history. And then, like a year into it, I was like, this is kind of too limiting because the neighborhood's not that big, so eventually I am gonna run out of people like to talk about and what's going on. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just do whatever I want. I'll interview whoever I want. I'll interview all the homies, like whoever wants to come through, whoever has a book project or whatever to promote. Like, come on through, right? It'll make for good conversation. And yeah, it's been 4 years now that I've had the show going, and
Nice.
to help keep it that long, I balanced it out where I only recorded and interviewed like once a month, sometimes a little longer. Right, like during the pandemic, I didn't record for a few months, but yeah, I try to keep that on a balance so it doesn't become, another annoying thing that's something I have to do. Right, I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking to people. The little process I have of doing research and writing the questions and then rewriting the questions, and from those questions being able to create a narrative, right, that'll guide the overall larger discussion. And genuinely just getting excited to hear what people are going to say when I ask them these questions and they talk about their projects, right? Because for us as hosts of podcasts, our job is to get folks to talk about themselves. And, once we ask the right questions, there's no stopping them.
Exactly. And I think it's also to your advantage that you're a journalist. Like I'm not. I just was like, I write some questions. Sometimes I don't even ask them. I just have some shit. And it's just like, I just want to have a convo. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, I think of something all of a sudden. Oh, burr. Like,
no pressure. No pressure. You gotta use
like
the situation, because then pressure kind of like gets in your way, and then you're focusing too much on one thing when you could have taken the conversation in another direction.
Exactly. I like it easy breeze, man. Just fucking easy breeze. I mean, because I have dope guests, so it's pretty easy. Okay, so let's get into questions and comments from the audience.
All right,
let's see. What's one thing you wish people understood about LA? And that's from our former LA Eastside colleague, Cindy.
What's one thing I wish people would understand about LA? I think like any community, any city, right? Know that if you are new to it, you're probably going to experience the tourist side of it, the surface level of it, and that only once you're there, if you're committed and you're going to stay there, and you're respectful, right, of the communities that you're in, and acknowledge that, and look for the stuff beneath the surface, right? The dive bars, the dope hood food spots, the cultural communities and centers that make up every different community of LA, or right, that you'll find those in due time if you're connected to the right people. Otherwise, you're just going to spend most of your time out in like West Hollywood or something, or like Highland Park, which, is gone through a lot of changes, and you can be stuck on York, going to all these expensive bars and stuff, or you can find the hood places that are still there.
Yeah. Okay. Another question from Cindy is, where would you take someone who didn't know LA on a bike tour?
Oh yeah. So I also ride my bike a lot. I'm one of those people that used to do that up until a few years ago when the job dictated that I needed to be driving more. But before that, I was a public transportation and bike all my life. So I've gotten a good lay of the land of what's safe, right? So in terms of like if I want to take somebody with me, depending on their riding level and their comfort, I could take them around town safely. But there's a few rides up my sleeve. There's a mural ride, ride of tour of murals in East LA. We can do that. There's a taco ride that I just did last year for downtown LA that was fucking delicious. I don't know why
I saw that.
Took me
you
so
need to
long
do that
to
shit
figure
again.
Yeah, we were thinking of either doing the same route with the same spots again, or doing another ride with different spots, right? Because we can just go anywhere in the city and like make a little route of different places we can hit up. I was talking to the homie about doing a donut ride también. Let's go get some donuts. And yeah, there's no shortage of rides that we can go to anybody that comes through.
That'll be dope. I'm gonna ask you about the your significant. I asked your significant other for any questions or comments, but I got can I respond in memes?
That's the love language.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I go send me some, but I'm sure you know. I'm trying to find, because I usually have it already. Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready for the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions?
Pew pew pew.
Readies. Okay. 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh shit. Bailo tango, masco chicle. Tururu.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Shut the fuck up.
Super fucking simple. Super fucking simple.
For everybody like me, shut the fuck up is good advice.
Because that carries on to any personal work.
God. Yeah.
Any situation.
Well,
Shut the fuck up.
One of the times that I took that as like, you're right, was when the homie from LA Eastside, Jerry, we were talking about a food spot that's just for locals in the neighborhood. And he was telling me, these are the kind of things you don't talk about or blog about, right? Because we don't want fucking other people to come in and mess this up. So shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah. I love that shit. Straight to the point. You don't have to think about it. It was like, boom, right there, the forefront of your mind. Next one. The song you play to get hyped. What is your hype song?
Ooh. Right now, Fear, I Live in the City. Living in the City. That shit gets me hyped up.
Okay. I'm going to add that. And in the show notes, you'll be able to click to our Word to Your Mama podcast guest hype song playlist.
Hell
And we'll
yeah.
add that to there.
Hell
And
yeah.
I was looking over it this past weekend and I was like, pretty eclectic.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
eclectic.
bet.
Yeah, it's pretty eclectic. I mean, it's kind of hip hop heavy, but it goes a bunch of different places to the
Yeah.
right and to the left, which is awesome.
Bringing some
So
of
I'll add that.
those LA punk vibes.
Exactly. Okay, final question. What will be your legacy?
Oh shit. That fool said a lot of things. I've given thought of that so much during this pandemic, right? Because it sucks. A lot of people have passed away. A lot of celebrities have passed away.
Yeah.
And then people start having these conversations about who they were as a person and who they were as an artist. Right. And most of the time it doesn't add up because we first got introduced to them as the artists. And then we learned how much of a shitbag they are of a person. And I was like, man, that's a conversation to have, like something to reflect on. So I started thinking about that, like what legacy is, right? Like I'm not having kids. I'm good with that. All the stuff I've done in the internet will probably only last a couple of years. And I've been interviewed for research, like in academia. I've been in a documentary,
Dope.
but it's only if you're looking in those specific spaces, right, that you'll find like this fool Erik Huerta once said this. Other than that, just another blip in time.
Crazy. Well, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and have this convo with me.
Hell yeah.
It's great seeing you and seeing you out in them streets with the
Trying.
taco on your shirt. Oh, and then also after LA Eastside, both of us went over to LA Taco at the time when it wasn't like deep journalistic stuff that they were doing. It was just like, what's
Nah.
happening in the neighborhood?
Graph stuff like art galleries, tacos,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
putting out the vibes out there of like, this is LA, like from the perspective of folks that are out there, right? Yeah. So, that's a trip. I first started contributing to LA Taco in 2007.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I was looking recently, like, does it still up there? And I saw some posts from like 2011, but I was like, it was earlier than that because it was around the same time, right? It coincided or was right after LA Eastside. And I was like, oh man, that was a good time. Because I think someone else posted about that event that we met each other or we were at the Crew West, that thing.
Right.
Yeah,
The
they
promo
posted
post
that.
of like, hey, this is happening on Saturday, Friday, whatever.
That's how you knew
the
what was going
details.
down.
And I miss those times because it was. I talked to the homie Irwin. Shout out to them who they were in that space at the same time. They're a photographer, right? So we talk about like the old days of when like the art walk was just barely getting started. Crew West was still on Winston. Like all this stuff was happening at the same time. And I'm just like, man, that was another time where I was like, man, I'm glad I was there to at least be a part of it. I may not have been in as deep as others, but I was there. I could say I was there getting drunk, on Spring Street for
Yeah,
free.
those are good times. I do miss that. It was like a bunch of stuff happening. A lot of of our people, shit was going down.
Yeah.
It was kind of like what you kind of had to cut some stuff off of the list of things itinerary for the night because it was just too much shit. Or you'd get drunk over here and you're like, fuck it, I can't make it over there, and it's like those are good fucking times.
Hell
And when
yeah.
when I talked to Man One or whatever, I was like, man, you did something amazing
Right?
at that space,
It's
like
only now
changing
that
it.
they're gone that we really realize what was going on there.
Always happens, right? When it's too late. Yeah, but you still write for LA Talk or no?
I
Not
still
anymore?
write once in a while when, my
Mm.
day job and other responsibilities aren't
Say.
the priority. And most of the time I'll write something that for me is like something I'm passionate about, right? So
Yeah.
in the last couple of years, I wrote about this swap meet in South Central closing down. That actually got me an award. I was like, hell yeah, that's dope. Like,
Dope.
I was just
Felicidades.
writing, right? Thank you. I wrote about that because the homie's dad had a shop in there and they told me about it. And then I was like, cool, let me see if LA Taco wants to do something with this. And, we published a story. The homie out in Bell Gardens también put out a comic book. So, lifting them up and what they're doing. And yeah, anytime, it's the same as my podcast, right? Anytime I can put others on to the homies doing awesome work and their projects, I'm all about it.
Yeah, that's dope. Okay, so you're still on the roster, still on the masthead.
I'm on the Slack. I'm like, hey, did y'all see this? You should write about that.
Amazing. Well, muchísimas gracias. I appreciate it. And, I'm so looking forward to the numbers going down so that we could have this get together because I need to try this. I didn't grow up with that cake, but I can only assume I need to try this cocaine high, you know?
You won't disappointed. Y'all won't be disappointed.
Gracias.
And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner. Supernatural Bear. Hello, everyone. I am the SNB16, and today, if any of you guys are new to the show or just don't know what I'm into these days, because, man, family, I haven't seen you in a while, this is essentially what I've been doing. Creator of Film Facts, SNB loves to have fun on Roblox with his friends, make high-quality Scratch projects on Scratch, and help create epic shows for the next generation of kids. He loves Transformers, Scratch, Marvel, Star Wars, and customization. These are some of the current shows that he is working on. Adventures in Rome, a story about 5 unlikely kids created by a god-tier being who must fight the forces of evil and protect a future Rome. LTS Gaming, 3 epic gamers having fun playing games, doing challenges, 1v1s, PvPs, and so much more. The Weekly Film Fact. Posted every week, the Weekly Film Fact is a fact about a film. Every week. Transformers Battle Planet. The war has weighed heavily on the Autobots and Decepticons, as it explores all that is more than meets the eye. And finally, Transformers Origins. It explores the origins and backstories of all our favorite robots in the skies, till all are one.
Shooby-doos. Yeah. There you have it, folks. Episode 75 of Word to Your Mama. In the can, in the box. It's a wrap? I don't know. But how great is El Random Hero, the Quasi-Undocumented? I can't wait to taste that coffee cake and to hopefully have a LA Eastside reunion, and maybe, they'll be so gracious as to make some tamales, even if it's not, tamale time. That would be amazing. Quality peeps, man. Quality peeps. And I'll have links in the show notes to anything we mentioned, but especially to his Twitter account because he's fantastic on there. He's a fantastic follow. He's pretty funny and also always, bringing light to a lot of different issues. He's a nice mix. He's He's multidimensional, like a lot of us are. So definitely check him out. Support, support, and support. And if you're listening to this and it's still not April 30th, then if you listen, you can go ahead, listen to episode 74 if you haven't, to find out how I got involved with the Web3 community building event for marginalized communities going down in LA at Avenida Studios, April 30th. Hola Metaverso. There's still time to register, folks. Still time to register. If you want to, go to holametaverso.io and register and put discount code HOLA20. That's right, HOLA20, and get 20% off. Yeah. And if you're going to go, if you're going to attend, hit me up because I'm coming into town to, help set up and to be a part of the event on the 30th. So come through. And as always, thank you so much for the support. For sure this podcast, by now you know that it's part of the Latina Podcasters Network. Super proud of that and super grateful for that. And you can, donate like Brian Liu. As I mentioned earlier, you can buy something from the store. We got some enamel pens from the little man that he designed back in the days, a Voltron pen, super cute. What else? You can become a patron. You could buy us a whiskey via buy me a coffee. And then something that's free, two things that are free. You could leave reviews. On Spotify, you could leave starred reviews. On Apple, you could leave star and leave comments. And then for free is tell your folks, tell your peeps, and tell your friends. And as always, we reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritz P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. If you want to know anything about Word to Your Mama, including Media Kit, go to wordtoyourmama.com. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by ritzyperiwinkle.com.